Let me ask you before we get into some past misconceptions and present day misconceptions, why do you think coaches for a long time, and it's been high level college coaches, both baseball and softball, it's been professional coaches at the major league level. There's been people who have written books about hitting where these misconceptions have been very present and they've been oftentimes repeated on those pages in those books. Why do you think coaches have preached these things? Was it just a sign of the times? Was it something that was a feel versus real type thing that they really didn't truly understand? While feel versus real is very real and it's something that's very important for a lot of hitters out there. Why did the coaches always preach these misconceptions back in the 70s and 80s that have been proven scientifically and through trial and error not to be real?
I mean, it could be a combination of a lot of things, but I have to imagine at some point there was some confirmation bias, right? Had
Yeah.
to be at some point their favorite hitter ever said, I just try to squish the bug, or I try to swing down on the ball to get that backspin. And they viewed it as working. It was like, well, they said they were doing this and it looked like they were doing this and it worked. And so I have to imagine then, and baseball is just such a old-timey sport. I think it's helped the sport in some ways with still having a history to it, but I think it's hurt the sport in a lot of ways because there's so much new technology that has come out that I think has been faced with some resistance, right? You have organizations with old school coaches wanting to still teach a lot off of feel, and new school coaches that are saying, no, no, no. Look at all this data, look at all this film, look at everything that we can gather about athletes now. So I have to imagine it's some type of confirmation or combination of, but there had to be at some point in their career where they heard something, they thought they saw something, and they were like, "This must be it. This must be why this works." Or they felt it themselves, and it worked for them.
It sounds like, I mean, some of the best coaches as well that have done this, but it sounds like they put a blanket over a large majority of people or hitters and said, this is what should be done. When one of the golden rules, correct me if I'm wrong, of coaching is you have to sometimes individualize more than sometimes, a lot of times individualize with that player to get them right, both physically, both mentally.
Yeah, there's certain overarching principles that are going to apply, like
Yeah.
the way someone moves and the way someone creates power and the way, um, maybe we see a ball, like certain overarching principles. But I always get so nervous when I hear an absolute, when I hear every hitter should be doing this. Why isn't your hitter doing that? And the other thing too is when that absolute is in the form of a cue.
Mhm.
So, hey, every hitter should be feeling like they're swinging down the ball. Every hitter should have this type of feel. That always gets me nervous because a cue is that interpersonal relationship again between the athlete and the coach.
Yeah.
And I have no problem if a coach tells an athlete to swing down on the ball because maybe they're trying to get them to level out on a high pitch. However, they need to know that that is a feel and not actually what's going on. That's not an overarching principle that we're now going to carry on for the next 20, 30 years in our sport. But maybe that's what we have to tell the athlete in order to achieve the actual swing that we want them to be swinging.